Hello everyone, welcome to this series of videos on the introduction to operations management. So these are the videos we'll talk about what is operations management, what are the basics of operations management. In the previous video, I defined the idea of operations management and why it is important that we study operations management. In this video, we'll be talking about the idea of goods and services. How do they differ? And how does operations management differ in either of these cases? So let's first define these terms, goods and services. So services are economic activities that typically produce an intangible product, say education, like you're getting right now, entertainment, lodging, government, financial, health services. So these are all economic activities that produce an intangible product. While manufacturers produce a tangible product, so those are goods because you can physically touch them, you can physically see them, and that is considered a good. Now, operations activities are performed in both service sector and in the manufacturing sector, and the operations that are the kind of operations that you do and the operations management that you do tend to be slightly different, even if the concepts behind them might be the same, right? So you might be managing a workflow process in a manufacturing floor. So you have different machines. You have a product that has to go from machine 1 to machine 2, then has to go to machine 3, and then you have to route them the right way. You might have to build a conveyor belt and all of that. So there are lots of design that goes into it, a lot of manufacturing design that goes into it. So that's an example of how workflow happens in a manufacturing setting. Similarly, you have workflow within a service setting. For example, let's say that you are applying for, so let's say you've filed your taxes, right? Your taxes come to the IRS. The IRS has a process flow where somebody comes, takes all the documents that were sent in. So this is if you're filing the taxes physically, takes the documents that you have sent in, looks through them and sees if you have sent in all the required documents. If not, then they send you a letter saying that certain documents are required. If you've sent in all the documents, it goes to person A, who first checks it, and then person B, who then might audit it, and then person C, who might say, okay, fine, everything is fine. That is also a workflow, but that is more of a service setting rather than a manufacturing setting. And the ideas in the way you manage these operations are similar, not exactly the same. Obviously, people are not machines, but the ideas behind them are the same. So if you've ever worked in a call center, or you know anybody who worked in a call center, you know how call centers work. The idea behind how the workers in a call center work are very similar are managed in a very similar way in which machines are managed on a shop floor. You look at things like how many calls were taken per second, right? Similar to how many goods were manufactured, or how many doodads were manufactured by the machine in an hour, right? It's the same as how many calls were taken, right? How long did it take? It should take approximately the same time in either case. Another calls might be slightly different, but even in a manufacturing setting, sometimes not all raw materials are the same. There might be slight difference in, say, the tensile strength or something like that, and suddenly a particular machine that took 10 seconds to manufacture something might take 12 seconds to manufacture it because it's slightly tougher. So again, there are slight differences in the way things happen, but the idea is that operations management techniques can be applied to both of these scenarios. Not always the same, but the ideas are similar. And as the PowerPoint says, the distinction is not always clear. Now, in the next slide, we're going to see the spectrum of goods and services, and this few pure services is something keep in mind. We'll look at the next slide, right? So you notice that goods and services are on a spectrum. You have pure goods all the way to pure services. And then in between, you have core goods and core services. Core goods are goods where the physical product is the main thing that you're buying, but it comes attached with the service sometimes. You might buy it, you might not, but it comes with a service, and the service is usually important, right? Say, for example, you buy a car. And these days, you buy a car anywhere, you're obviously not just going to buy a car, you're also going to buy a service plan where they say, okay, for the first 3 years, bumper to bumper, you have 36,000 mile warranty, anything goes bad, you come to us, we'll fix it. That service, that fixing is a service that they're offering to you as part of buying the good, but you're not buying the service itself. You might buy an extended warranty later, but when you buy the car, you're mainly buying the car and the service comes attached to it. As opposed to core services, where the service itself is the main thing. For example, internet service, right? So internet service, connecting to the internet, is the most important thing. But you also have tangible goods associated with it. You need a router in your house. You need to connect it to a port somewhere in the wall, right? And that has a fiber optic network that goes somewhere else. So there are other goods that are associated with it, but the service is the most important thing. The same goes for your phone. So your cell phone, you have to have a physical cell phone or a physical smartphone to connect to the internet or make calls. I mean, I don't know if people make calls anymore, but to make calls, you need a physical cell phone. But what you're mainly buying is the service, the ability to be able to communicate with somebody else, right? So that's the idea. The same goes for hotels and airlines, where airlines, the main thing the airlines are selling you is the ability to go from point A to point B. That's the service that they're selling. But there's also a physical seat that you can sit in. They might give you some food, right? Or not, depending upon the airline that you're going in. So there are some tangible goods associated with it, but the service is the main part. And finally, you have pure services. Pure services are things like education, for example. It's mainly a service that you get. Medical, investment. But like we were talking about in the last slide, there are few pure services, right? There's always some good attached with it, even with the university degree, right? You get a university degree, but you get a certificate at the end. The education is the main thing, but the certificate is useful because when you go apply for a job, they want you to show the certificate, right? Saying that, okay, authenticating the fact that you went through this degree, got the degree, and you're able to get the job that you are able to get. And the same goes with medical and even investment, right? There are some goods that are usually associated. And then, of course, we didn't talk about pure goods, but pure goods are the physical goods where the goods are the main thing. For example, raw materials that go into manufacturing processes. You're buying the good itself. You're not buying any service that comes with it. Same goes for food products or chemicals and things like that. These are usually raw materials, right? And that's the idea. This is a spectrum from fully tangible to fully intangible and everything in between, where the tangible product is the main thing, but a service comes attached to it. That's a core good. If the service is the main thing with a tangible product attached to it, that's a core service. And then you have a pure service. And that's the idea of the goods to services spectrum, right? So here's an example. So the intangible product is a ride in an airline seat. A tangible product is the seat itself, right? That produce and consume simultaneously. This is a very important thing to understand about a service. The manufacturing of the service happens at the same time as the service is delivered, which means that the customer is involved in the manufacturing process of that service. So when you call a call center and you have a conversation with them, right, you are manufacturing that service along with the person who's providing the service for you, as opposed to a good where you're not involved in the manufacturing process as a customer. You go, you buy the product. It's an inventory. You go to the shelf, you get you get a can of Coke. The Coke has already been manufactured. All you're doing is buying the can of Coke and drinking it, right? You're not involved in the manufacturing process. And that's a very important difference between a service and a good. In service, the customer is involved in the manufacturing process, right? And characteristics of services, they can be unique, like investments or medical care. They are unique to you, right? In the sense that your medical care is going to be different. Even if you have an identical twin, your medical care is going to be different from your identical twin's medical care, right? But similar products are going to be exactly similar. So if you have two AirPods Pro and they're manufactured in the same place and they were bought at the same time, they will work almost exactly the same. They're very similar and you cannot see a difference between the two, right? That's the idea there. So good services can be unique. Now, I'm not saying goods cannot be unique. If you're manufacturing something, you're custom making something for a specific person, you're etching something on that iPod Pro because you're giving it out as a gift to somebody, you're putting it on the case of the iPod Pro, that's personalized, right? But still, they're all tend to be more standardized, right? Now, services may occur in a retail store, a local office, house, or the internet. Product is typically produced at a fixed facility. So there's a fixed manufacturing facility, and reselling of service is unusual, right? The few examples are musical concert or medical care. So it's very unlikely that once you go see a musical concert, you cannot resell it. right? You cannot sell the experience. The best you can do is maybe make a video and show somebody else, but then it's not the same as being there in the concert itself. The same goes for medical care. But a product can definitely be resold. You buy an iPhone, you use it for 3 years, you don't want to use it anymore, you want to get the latest iPhone, you can sell the iPhone. Somebody else can buy the iPhone and use it, right? So goods and services have different characteristics, and it's important to know the difference. And the other interesting thing about goods and services is that as a sector, the manufacturing sector versus the service sector has had are different in this country based upon the time that you go back to. For example, in the 1970s, the manufacturing sector was a much larger part of the country's economy as opposed to the service sector, right? And here is a nifty chart for it. So if you look at this manufacturing service sector here, you'll definitely notice that agriculture used to be a much bigger part of the country's percentage of workforce and even part of the GDP for that matter, right? And I think it was in the 1920s where agriculture got taken over by manufacturing and services. Longest time manufacturing services was pretty close, but manufacturing sort of stayed constant, and then it sort of went down once the whole outsourcing stuff started happening, and then services became a much bigger part of the workforce and also the economy, right? So. And finally, this is the last slide here. This gives you an idea of the jobs. So about 85% of all jobs that exist these days happen in the service sector, and these are the other jobs. Now, there is a perception that service jobs don't pay well, but you have to realize that most of the jobs are service jobs. So 42% of service workers actually receive above average wages. But it depends on what you define as a service worker, right? So if you go and somebody is filing taxes for you, the CPA is a service worker also. So that's the idea there. Retail trade only pays 61% of national average. Overall average wage is 96% of the average, right? Okay, so I'm going to end it here. So this is the difference between goods and services, the difference between the manufacturing and the service sector, and so this is what forms the basics or the foundation of operations management. So when you talk about operations management and everything else that we talk about during the semester, we'll always be talking about how does it apply in the service context versus how does it apply in the manufacturing context, because there's usually a big difference between the two. All right. Okay. I'll end this video here. In the final video for this week and in the next video in these series of introductory videos, we'll talk about productivity. What is productivity? How does productivity work? And how does productivity help a company manage their operations better? Right? I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.